That last big battle in Quebec is the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. So if you look on this picture here, you'll see all of these boats coming up on water right here. Those are the British troops coming. And then up here, this little rectangle of land are the Plains of Abraham, which was really at the time just a farmer's field owned by a man named Abraham. But now it's a huge, huge part of Canadian history that if you go to Quebec City, you can visit. And super cool if you ever get the chance to do so. Um, but what happened here was pretty straightforward and not really complicated at all to explain. General Louis Joseph Montcalm, who was the general of the French, woke up on the morning of September 13th, 1759, to the news that the British, under the leadership of General James Wolfe, had landed in Quebec. So they were waiting for the French in the open field of the Plains of Abraham. And at this point, the French general Montcalm had two major challenges um, that he was facing. So, because his army had been divided up into those little guerrilla warfare groups, many men were 16 kilometers away at the Beauport shore. The French also were accustomed to fighting in forests using their guerrilla warfare techniques that we talked about, so they weren't accustomed to fighting in the open like the British were. Montcalm decided to go to the Plains of Abraham and fight the British. This battle lasted less than an hour, and the British were the ones that won. And unfortunately, both generals died in this battle. So, two major mistakes that were made during this battle on the part of General Louis Joseph Montcalm um, were mistakes that eventually, I guess, caused the British to gain control of the French colony. So, if the French general would have just waited for the rest of his troops to arrive, he would have had much more manpower in this fight, and maybe they would have stood a better chance at winning. And the other thing is that the British are not used to Canadian winters. So the French have been there for a while, they know what the deal is, but the British have no idea. So if he would have waited for winter to come for this battle to happen and to essentially agree to do it, the British would have had to leave because they wouldn't have had the supplies to last through a Canadian winter. So these two things in themselves, um, had he have done these things, the French maybe would have had a better chance at winning this battle. Um, After the fall of Quebec, so after this big battle, the British continued on their fight to gain all of that French land, and they went on and captured Montreal in September of 1760, and this is what ended the 7 Years' War in North America. That doesn't mean that the war in itself is over. It continued in Europe and other parts of the world for 3 more years after this. But this section in North America of the war is now over because British was able to gain control of not only Quebec City but also Montreal.